Well, I guess we get started. It's the Android Police Podcast. I'm David Ruddick.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
I'm Cody Toombs.
And I'm Corbin Davenport.
I believe it's actually Corbin Davenport.
I should have
just pronounced your name correctly.
Yeah. No, next time I'll say that and do the dab while I'm saying it.
And I am David Reddick, according to Reddick. Is that even a name? Do people have that name? I don't think they do.
I don't think Whitman.
Yes, there's even an actor.
Google understood my name, so I don't know what's wrong with you.
I
Did
think
it really?
It did.
It did.
It spelled it correctly.
That's actually scary. You should probably seek
You know,
out. There's like
I
a ghost
actually-
in the AI. I don't know.
I told Jules to make sure to point that out in the post. I don't think he did, because I think that's frankly the most interesting part.
Fired.
I
Yeah.
think it's because I don't enunciate as well as Ryan does.
Yeah,
I just very lazily say my last name.
It got nobody's name right except for mine.
No.
So weird.
It didn't screw mine up in any significant way.
Did it?
Well,
I thought.
It didn't
spell it
spell it right, but
Oh,
I mean, it spelled
Yeah.
my name
Okay.
right, which is shocking. Okay, that's old news. We're
Yeah.
just we're
It is.
dragging
It
up
is
the past.
very old news. It's so old. And speaking of things that are so old, we've basically beaten them to death. Let's talk about Inbox.
oh,
Google Inbox is officially RIP, mostly, I guess.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
fine with me. I didn't use it. You guys who used it, I guess that's sad for you.
Yeah.
I used it until they announced it was shutting down, and I figured I should probably just go ahead and switch, or it'll be more painful later. So that's exactly what I did, and it worked out because now that I'm back to normal email patterns, I can actually do email on my desktop again. Because before, when I was using Inbox, you kind of have to use Inbox on both the phone and desktop, where it's weird organizing. And the desktop Inbox web app was always terrible. It could not handle large bundles at all.
Oh, no, it couldn't. It was really bad. There were many, for all the rose-colored glasses we shall wear in Inbox's honor, there were a lot of things that never really got fixed with it. It was really bad at handling high-volume email. It was just not designed for it in any way. Bundles were great for things like personal email. Personal email, I probably get 20 or 30 emails my personal email a day, most of which are just garbage auto-generated nonsense, like promo stuff.
Mhm.
Whereas at my work email, we all get probably between 500 and 1,000 a day. And that Inbox never scaled to that very, very well.
No.
Now I'm
Someone's phone is buzzing, and it's not mine.
It's mine.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah, so I think more importantly, our title of the post, The Good Die Young. I was listening to Billy Joel for probably a good half hour after Manuel published that post. Great song. Pretty good.
And some people have pointed out that Inbox, I believe, still works if you install an APK from before they added the death timer.
Yeah.
So
people probably
if you
shouldn't.
really want to drag this out as long as possible, you can do that.
It's time. Google's going to shut off the server stuff that makes it work eventually, and you just don't want to have to wait that out. It's time.
There was someone in one of the posts that was very strongly calling anyone stupid who thought that there was a server side component to Inbox, and they were like, "No, it's all Gmail." It's like, do you know that? Are you a Google engineer? I'm pretty sure there are some bits in being hosted server side, but this guy was so confident about it. I've never been more that confident.
Yeah,
as that
you
guy
should
comments.
bookmark that and then go back when they do.
Yeah. I would be fairly certain that the Android app probably calls back to some URLs that start with inbox.google.com. And once those don't work anymore, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the very least, it probably organizes your email into categories on the server. That's not the local app that's doing that. Probably.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
I mean, I would tell these people to find some sort of alternative email client, but I feel like it's even more likely that those will shut down than a Google product. And Google products shut down all the time.
And breaking news, guys. B. Diddy is subscribed for 3 months.
Thank you,
Good
B.
for him.
Diddy.
And in B. Diddy's honor, let's trample on Google Plus's grave a little bit, which I think is a even more fun grave to trample on, honestly.
Man.
Google Plus sucked.
The thing about Google Plus is Inbox has its defenders, and Google Plus, like, nobody really liked it. Not even Google people liked it.
Artem loved it. It was his favorite.
Artem is the only person in the world who loved it.
Artem's favorite social network.
That makes so much sense if you've met Artem.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. I wonder where Artem's going to blog now, because he doesn't blog on Android Police. He can't blog on Twitter. He's not big on the tweet storms.
we limit him to 1 post a year on Android Police.
Yeah, I just don't know where his tirades are going to go anymore. There's no outlet.
Tweet storms. He's going to tweet storm.
Yeah, he seems pretty into the tweeting.
I look forward to the tweet 1 of 42 the next time something breaks.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, if you try to go to Google Plus today, it just tells you the consumer side of Google Plus is no more. It's dead now.
No. But I can still access it with my Android Police email. So we're keeping G Plus alive.
we could have our own internal AP Google Plus.
Yeah. That's where we'll post internal memes.
Internal memes. We only have a few of those.
Google Plus started out like kind of okay, but what happened was it became clear that it was so insular that, like, you would have communities and they would seem very active, but then you had to remember that outside those communities, it was a ghost town. People weren't using it in a Facebooky way. They were using it in a, like, the circles concept almost kind of worked, like where you had tons of people talking about Android. And that's actually probably was one of the most popular things on Google Plus, was talking about Android. That and sharing photos, oddly. But once the Android thing started to really kind of die down and the spam problem really started to amp up, I just think it became apparent that Google Plus was like, oh, this is like one of those, like, little movie set towns where you have everything here. And if you're not really paying attention and looking very closely, it looks like a real social network. But as soon as you push one of those buildings over, it's like, oh, it's just full of ads and malware links.
I mean, Google, I think a big problem with Google Plus is, God damn it, my phones are going off. A big problem with that social network is that...
Shut up, Google Home Max. Nobody asked you.
Anyway,
everyone.
It's probably going to keep making noise. Anyway, a big problem with that is that when the cracks started to show, Google was not doing anything to patch them. Like, when spam started to pick up, everybody noticed, because there was, like, nobody at the wheel to steer it in the right direction. It just got worse and worse, and you could tell that whoever was supposed to be in charge of Google Plus was doing other things. Like, they would roll out some token update every now and then that was supposed to address something or another, but they never fixed the stuff that was really wrong with it.
Well, I think one of the big things that I think is happening is that we watched as Google siphoned off all of the good parts of it. Hangouts, Google Photos, and then was there another thing that was in Google Plus that isn't anymore? I thought there was
the location thing. What was that?
Oh yeah. Location sharing. That left.
So I feel like Google was just like picking, and I think the reason they did that is because it had the Vic Gundotra curse on it. Google Plus was Vic Gundotra's product.
Yeah.
And I think once he was gone, everybody's like, does anybody want this pile of crap social network? No? Anybody? Okay, let's part it out. I think that's basically what happened.
I mean, and I guess I can't really blame Google for not wanting to run its own social network, because look at all of the crap that Facebook is going through right now. Like, just
the positive attention they're getting in the media?
Having all of this like social data on everybody is just a minefield, and Facebook is not navigating it well, and I don't think Google would have navigated it much better.
Well, to be fair, Facebook is basically the worst possible purveyor when it comes to controlling any of that data. Google, while certainly there are ways to criticize them, at the very least, they aren't literally putting this stuff out there on publicly accessible servers to share with third parties.
Google is not actively malicious like I think Facebook is, but they would have made enough mistakes that it would have made them look worse, and it would have not been worth running a large social network.
Well, they did. That's what happened. That's what happened at the end. Like the two like API,
Yeah, that API
issues
bit.
they found, which again, like
yeah. So
I don't.
and just look at, I mean, look at the way that was portrayed in like most of the media.
Yeah.
Google said, "Hey, we found a flaw that could have allowed people to take your data. We don't think anybody did because we fixed it. But you know, now we're just going to not do Google Plus anymore." And everybody's like, "Oh my God, your data was hacked by Google." And you know, that's, I mean, that, like, you know, that just shows how people respond to these sorts of things, and that, you know, Google doesn't need to be involved in that when Google Plus was already so, you know, not worth it in the first place. Also, Bilbo Baggins 9 subscribed, and that's good. 3 months in a row.
Really impressive, because I'm pretty sure Bilbo's dead.
Thank you, Bilbo.
Jeez.
Dark.
I
I
go ahead,
read
Cody.
to the end of the book. I'm pretty sure he died.
No, it's absolutely fair. You don't really want to be part of a news cycle that's always going to be pretty much down on you, just as the nature of what you're producing. But at the same time, I still think Google was at least capable of navigating that better than Facebook. You can't show another social network that has been as bad as Facebook has been.
I mean, I don't think that Google even had the guts to make Google Plus work. It wasn't willing to do what it needed to do. Like, it, for a while, it replaced all the comments on YouTube with Google Plus, and then they were like, they backed off of that. Like, okay, we're sorry, guys, we won't do that.
I forgot about
that.
Okay, but they got hated so hard over that.
They did.
That wasn't about backing off, just, you know, out of being wimpy. That's backing off.
Oh no, that was full on revolt.
YouTube wrecked them.
Yeah. That almost, I'm sure this is probably proven in some way, but that was probably what killed Google Plus. Is that basically as soon as it came out of the gate, it was universally hated. That really didn't do it any
was a couple
favors.
years after Google Plus started.
Oh, was it? I thought that was fairly shortly after it opened to everyone.
At least a year or two after.
What, that Google Plus took over as the comments on YouTube? Yeah, that was way after.
Yeah, that was when it was starting to sort of plateau. It wasn't growing. Google's like, well, if we're going to make this happen, we need to get it into everything. And they started doing that. They added it to other stuff too. Like, for a long time, all of the Google login stuff across the web was Google Plus. They were Google Plus buttons. Yeah. And like, they couldn't keep that up either.
Oh yeah, the plus one. But I remember there were some sites where instead of like a paywall or like a ad before you sell the page, it'd be like plus one us to download this or to see this. That was always fun.
Well, and websites were pretty quick to adopt it too, and I think that was mostly just because like Google like kind of was like hint, nudge, nudge. You know,
this will help your page rank.
Yeah, exactly. We do the search stuff. So
even if there was no truth to that, websites, everybody was like, okay, fine, whatever.
I'm not even sure Google was really.
We do still have a Google Plus button on Android, please.
We do.
Happens to click it? No?
It's for, you know, it's in memoriam.
Yeah, we'll change it. I don't know. I liked Google Plus kind of when it was somewhat active, but I know a couple years ago I tried to moderate a somewhat big community, and the spam tools were terrible. Like I would just sit there for a pretty substantial amount of time, a couple times a week, just removing spam after spam, and it only got worse over the years. And like it was kind of funny. Even at the end, you can tell Google just completely gave up, because when I logged into Google Plus a couple times to check something before it went down, like it would show the like top posts on the homepage from other people because I wasn't following anyone, and all of them would have like really explicit spam comments like every single post. So like even at the end, those spammers were trying their hardest on Google Plus.
The zombies got over the walls in this scenario. I think it's safe to say. I guess it's time to shill for Twitch, which is just a classic segment on the Android Police podcast. We know everybody enjoys it. And if you enjoy it, you should subscribe to the Android Police podcast on Twitch. That's twitch.tv or twitch.com/Android Police. And if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, this is the important part. You can subscribe to our channel for free. All you have to do is link your Twitch account and your Amazon Prime account, which I promise is really easy. It's like clicking 2 buttons or something. And then you go to our channel and hit subscribe. You get 1 free Twitch subscription as part of your Amazon Prime membership. And when you subscribe to us, you are actually monetarily supporting the channel, but you're not paying any money, but we get money. It's weird. We don't question it. So go ahead and go to twitch.tv/Android, please, and subscribe to the show. And remember that you do have to re-up your subscription once a month, because those free Twitch Amazon Prime subscriptions do expire every month, and you just have to keep renewing it. Again, totally free if you're a Prime subscriber.
You know what else is free? Android Q Beta 2. You can break your phone for free right now.
You can't?
You can get Google Pay to not work.
Yeah, I'm personally finding that Android Q Beta 2 is causing all of my apps to take very long to install their updates, which is a new and exciting feature I think we can all get behind.
Yeah, this actually seems worse than the first beta. I don't know what's going on with this.
I haven't installed it on my Pixel yet. I've been comparing, whenever I'm covering something, I've just had that on the older versions I can check behind, because there's always those changes where you're not completely sure if it's new in the beta or maybe it was even in Pi. So yeah, I've had mine still in beta 1.
Yeah, so I think probably the biggest change, like the biggest new feature that they haven't even really enabled, I think, for anything is bubbles, which we saw in the last build like as something you could enable with ADB, but now it supposedly works, even though it doesn't seem like any apps understand it yet. So it's basically chat heads at the system level.
Yes. So actually, there's sort of a preview screenshot that was in, I think, one of the blog posts, because I don't think you can mostly get it working right now, but it basically does look like Facebook chat heads.
Yeah,
and they show it. They show it for Google Messages and Hangouts, but it doesn't work for either of those right now.
Yeah, I mean, Google said that, you could do stuff like notes or reminders or whatever. I mean, it would be up to developers to find, good uses for this, but really it just looks like chat heads.
Yeah, there's a sample video out there. Somebody has already put a web browser into one of these, which okay,
so
cool.
Like that thing from a couple of years ago, the name of which escapes me.
I think
I know what you're talking about.
is what it got changed to.
There was the one that Chris Lacey made. I forget what that was called.
Yeah.
And then it was bought by the people with the cryptocurrency. Brave. Link Bubble.
Link Bubble, yes.
So these things have existed already with like their own, custom stuff that just like draws on top of apps. But now it's, it's a thing in Android, supposedly. I don't know if this is going to be a thing that developers really care about.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say maybe these should be against the law. I don't know. just going to throw it out there. Because wow, they're so bad.
Prosecuted for this.
I think so. I maybe that's a bit extreme, but I think it's a pretty serious offense.
David is just saying that maybe Google's headquarters should be burned to the ground for this. That's all he's saying. He's just saying
not to the ground, halfway to the ground. I don't know. I'm willing to compromise here.
You just want to burn down half the buildings.
How about Google just go all the way? Phones are getting so tall. What if we just do a giant black bar at the top for all little chat heads to stack on? Giant black bar.
This is like the epitome of, honestly, and if Liam was on the show, he would be sighing so hard at me, of lazy design, because it is like, screw it. We don't really like how the interface works. We're just going to start slapping elements on top of it to make them easier to get to. You're basically just saying it's a pain in the ass to navigate around. And so I'm just going to put this little thing on top of everything else so that you can't ignore it. It's just there. I think chat heads seemed like very cool when they were announced, like, 4 years ago or something. Everyone's like, oh, that's so cool. It's like a floating window in Android. It
was part of Facebook Home. That was the first time we saw chat heads.
And we were all super stoked on it. And now I cannot turn that feature off fast enough every time I set up a new phone, because wow, do I not want that in my life in any way. They're so annoying.
Yes, they are. Also, Arathcon just subscribed, whatever that name is.
Arathcon.
Good for him. Arathcon.
Yeah.
I will say the thing I'm excited the most in this beta is the seekable progress bar on music
Yes.
notifications.
Yeah,
So
that's
now
pretty cool.
now when you get just any sort of playback notification on Android, there's actually a progress bar on it, like it's a YouTube video, and you can scroll in it. Which, as someone mentioned, iOS has had for a really long time. I wasn't aware of this, but I'm really excited now for Android Q. Like there's always, now that Android isn't super rapidly changing every year, now there's only one or two very small things that I'm get really excited for. Like on Pi, I was really excited for Android to remember the volume on each individual Bluetooth device. That drove me crazy on Oreo. I was so happy for that in Pi, which my 6T doesn't have on Pi, so that's great. I had to reinstall the app or whatever that did that. This is what I'm excited for with Q now. This is pretty cool. Also,
Are you not excited for the new multitasking gesture that's completely ridiculous and broken?
I will stay on the old-fashioned navigation buttons as long as I possibly can, and I will die on this hill.
Yeah. So okay, it's very confusing in the new betas. So in Pi with the gesture nav thing, you can swipe to the right on the pill, and that quick switches between the last two apps. Now swiping on the pill, it goes to the next app in line. Like if you were to open the full multitasking thing, so you can keep swiping to the right, and it keeps going. It like cycling back through apps, and then you can swipe the other way to go the other way through apps. And I feel like this is one of those things that Google thinks is really clever and useful, but is actually going to be a usability pain in the ass. I just want a quick way to switch between two apps. That's all I want, Google.
You know, I have to I'm not defending Google on this because this is a really weird, bad implementation. But I remember when the gesture nav first came out, everyone was hating on it so hard because you could only swipe the one direction.
I don't recall that sort of.
Oh, it definitely happened.
I feel like the people who were saying that are crazy and wrong.
I don't know. I wasn't one of the people who was making that complaint, but it was common, extremely common. So yeah, I think they kind of did this as an answer to them, and maybe if nothing else, just like kind of a passive aggressive. Hey, so you wanted it? Here's what it's like.
I mean, it's
now
real,
you understand why you should
really
want
bad.
it.
It's not useful because you don't like nobody remembers the order that their background apps are in. Like this isn't like gonna get you where you're going any faster.
Craziest thing, my immediate response is Artem does.
Artem probably does.
Artem has already complained about how this behaves because it doesn't like the fact that when you swipe, like they stay in order, but then if you pull up on the multitasking UI after you selected a focused app, it goes back to first position in the focus, or in the recent apps list. Basically, his complaint is that there's like a small bug in it right now, and it's already breaking his brain. So, this is definitely right up Artem's alley.
Yeah. So other smaller, again, there don't appear to be a ton of user-facing changes in Android Q, and there'll probably be more smaller things dug up in the coming days and weeks. But some other stuff is that the Pixel 3 is actually now fully dual SIM enabled on the Beta 2, so you can now have the virtual SIM from Google Fi as well as a regular nano SIM in your Pixel 3, and you can have both of them active at the same time and get calls and texts from both of them at the same time.
Do they both do LTE?
You still have to pick one for data.
LTE.
I don't know actually. Ours doesn't say that.
I kind of assume they have to. I mean, 2G
because
coverage.
Like the eSIM obviously has to be like physically able to access LTE because Fi just defaults to using that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're both LTE.
Yeah. And also the Android emulator now has a mode where you can test out foldable phones, which is kind of neat. We're one step closer to that.
So every developer can open up and go, "Yep, looks like crap. closed.
No, you know,
Yeah.
developers are definitely going to like pump out some garbage, expensive foldable phone apps because everybody who buys one of those is going to be loaded, and they will never test them on actual foldable phones. They'll just push these apps out the door.
All right,
and, like,
breaking news, guys! On my weather app, you can check weather in 2 cities at the same time, one for each side of the screen. Boom.
Perfect. Also, one thing that a lot of people are very upset about is that Android Q changes how storage access works.
I'm so upset.
There are a lot of people upset. Like, there was someone actually like vomiting in the comments, upset at me.
Like, actually vomiting? Did he like post a video of himself vomiting from anger?
It felt like that.
Like
someone was
vomiting.
They were like totally cussing and like they were like, "This is just iOS," and it was really funny.
It's iOS. I'm gonna go buy an iPhone.
Okay.
Well, explain the situation so that we have a full.
No, don't. I don't want any nuance. It's funnier that
way. Yeah. So basically, in current Android versions, as long as when you give the storage permission to an app, which most apps ask for, they can access all the files on the internal storage. So that's not super great when you think about it for a phone. Like, I get why you need it on a computer, but not really a phone. So Android Q has a new thing called scoped storage, where every app gets their little file container that no other apps can access. And there are a couple of shared containers that apps can still all apps can get access to, and that's the downloads folder, the photos folder, videos, music, those sort of general directories. But there are new permissions for those. So, for example, Google Photos, for example, could just ask for the photos folder permission instead of general storage. So that's kind of neat. But people are upset about this because this will probably break file managers, at least ones that need access to other folders. I read through the documentation. I couldn't quite understand the storage permission as is. I don't think is going anywhere for now, but it seems like something that might be deprecated in a future release.
Yeah, I feel like making file explorers not function would be kind of a non-starter on Android, because there are still times that you need to like get in there and access the internal storage.
They would still be able to access like the shared collections, like the downloads and the folders. And like going back, I can't really think of a situation where I was going into a file manager and doing something that wasn't in like the downloads folder or something like that, except dealing with older apps that looked for files in specific folders like emulators. So I don't think it's really that big of a deal. It seems like a good addition. The other thing that's interesting is that there are a couple other small other changes to how files are accessed. So now, unless they are granted a certain permission, which I think is called access media location, when you select a picture to send to an app, or like if I'm on Twitter and I'm trying to embed a picture, the EXIF data will be stripped from that image before Twitter gets it. So that'll strip out like the location of where the picture was taken. So that seems good.
That's fine. That's I don't think I've ever intentionally posted something with EXIF data. I never thought, I definitely want my location to be included in this.
I need that in Firefox because I'm pretty sure at some point I've posted review pictures like next to my house, and I could probably very easily get doxxed. But also, Android Q now actually gives names to flash drives and SD cards and stuff that you plug into your phone, which I assumed it did before, but apparently it didn't. It just kind of all dumped them in a folder. So we're now up to Mac from 15 years ago. So good job, guys. But yeah, people are mad about this. This seems mostly good to me, especially when you have a lot of apps that are doing very sketchy things. Like I'm sure Facebook maybe is looking through all my files. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know.
I think Google's made such a thing out of sandboxing for years, and this is just storage sandboxing. Like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it seems like a good change.
You're gonna
be mad about it.
We'll see. This is going to be one of those where 99% of users are going to care absolutely not at all. There's going to be root users who get around it one way or
yeah.
another. And in between those, there will be the occasional person that gets really frustrated with it, but it's probably never really going to kick in.
I don't want to end up in a situation like Chrome OS where I have to keep all of my file hierarchies inside the downloads folder.
Well, no, because there's still there's like a couple different folders that are shared collections. But yeah, that is my issue on Chrome OS, where there's not like, there was never a folder where I could dump like extensions I was trying to test in Chrome OS. I would just have to put them in the downloads folder and then try to remember not to delete them later.
I'm more nervous that we're going to end up using the storage access framework for everything. Like I'm okay with it in a lot of instances, but I sort of hate the idea that every once in a while you're going to have to use it just to move this one file across like 3 or 4 different applications. Sometimes you just really need it to be accessible by all of them at once, or not even just a file, but like a whole directory of files. Sometimes that just makes life so much easier.
Cody, but I have a really important question. What's a file? I think that's going to
get out of here, Steve Jobs.
Apple's next commercial.
Yeah.
Well,
it's really funny because iOS has been doing this since I think version 1, where every
it's never
app
had an accessible.
Yeah, no. iOS has been
and people have
horrible
hated
file handling for like a decade now.
Well,
it's really terrible.
iOS also has the issue where it can't do anything when you plug in an actual like drive. Like even on the brand new $1,000 iPad Pro with a USB Type-C port, you plug in a flash drive. iOS doesn't know what to do. It's like, what is this? I don't know. I've never seen a flash drive before. Also, one quick thing about this is that in an attempt to not break as many apps, Android Q has a compatibility mode which turns all these new things off for apps installed on Android Pie. So if you upgrade your phone from Pie to Q, all the apps will still have access to how things used to work until you uninstall them. And then if you reinstall them, they can't use that anymore.
I'm really excited for that because it's going to reduce the number of emails we get about this from confused old people by like probably about 90%. So that's good stuff.
But yes, people are very, very upset at me for writing about this.
You're so mad.
Lots of why is Google copying iOS comments? It's like,
I love those. Those are my favorite.
How dare Google try to make privacy slightly better?
It's okay.
They're locking it down.
It's okay to have objections to things, but when you immediately go to like they're just trying to make it like iOS, I just want to roll my eyes and I'm just going to move on. There's no way to have a rational discussion with that person.
It's not like iOS is a solid operating system that millions of people like. No, it's terrible.
I don't think so. I think it's actually garbage and nobody enjoys it. That's what I've heard.
Did you leave a comment, David?
Possibly under one of my 8 anonymous accounts, yes. And speaking of things that are annoying, Twitch. You should subscribe to us on Twitch. I'm reminding you again because I know it's kind of annoying, but you should. Twitch.tv/Android Police. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can subscribe to us for free, and it does help support the show. Like really, it actually supports the show. It's not symbolic. It is cold, hard digital cash, but it becomes real cash theoretically. I mean, on the basis that we have a largely digital banking system in our society now, so we have to take that for granted that it is real money. Anyway, Twitch.tv/Android Police. Subscribe today if you're an Amazon Prime member.
And speaking of Amazon, you can get Asus's new Chromebook on Amazon finally. So a lot of people have been waiting for a replacement to the Asus Chromebook C302, which was kind of like the Chromebook to get for probably 2 years if you didn't have enough money for a Pixelbook or Chromebook Pixel. But Asus has not made they came out with a bunch of really crap low-end Chromebooks that were terrible. But this is finally, they made an actual replacement to the C302, and it's called the C434. Which is another terrible name.
Asus is so good at naming things.
They're really good. Actually, but they made the ZenBooks, which is a fine name. That's a fine name for a product.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing on Chromebooks, and I think they also use the flip name for Chromebooks that aren't convertible, so that makes everything a lot better. But anyway, so this Chromebook is more or less a minor upgrade over the C302. It has smaller screen bezels. It has like an all metal body, kind of sharper edges. The last one was more like MacBook, sort of rounded. This one's very, very square. It has a 14-inch 1080p screen. It has, I don't quite know how the specifications pan out because there's going to be a bunch of different SKUs, but the one you can buy right now has a Core M3 8100Y chip with 2 cores and 4 threads. It has 4 gigs of RAM, which is not super great now.
I think 8 is where you want to be for.
Yeah, they told me they're going to release the 8 gig version in the US. I guess they decided not to do that.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It's 4 gigs is not okay for Chrome OS. That's a non-starter.
Well, I used the C302 with 4 gigs for like a year as my main laptop. It's fine, but now there are a lot of mid-range Chromebooks with 8 gigs, and it feels like they should do that now.
Yeah, I don't think that's okay. I think this is not okay. Like, I would not recommend this laptop, not for that money. For $570, you damn well better be getting 8 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, like another $150, and you can probably get a Pixel book.
They told me at CES they're going to be. I was like, how much RAM? They're like, oh, it's going to be 8 gigs on all the US models, and I'm like, okay.
We saw this at CES, and it seemed like a really nice Chromebook.
Yeah, needs 8 gigs of RAM, or GTFO. I'm sorry, it's a non-starter with 4 gigs for that price. It's a premium Chromebook. Needs 8 gigs of RAM.
I am kind of disappointed at the price because the last C302 I think was at $450.
Yeah,
for most of its, and that was really good. So this kind of stinks. But on the plus, and again, like it's not a huge upgrade. It seems like it has a better chip in it slightly, but it's still kind of the same design. The screen's it's actually physically bigger.
Oh, it doesn't have a much better chip. This is a Y series chip, which is a proper Intel Core processor. So it's got hyper-threading and turbo boost, which this is like the same guts that a Pixelbook has.
But it's still an M3.
No, it's totally the same. Trust me. So the way Intel's stupid processor naming scheme works,
the M is misleading. M is for misleading.
So anything that's Y series is Y series is Y series. They're all basically the same except for clock speed. The M3 is just a downclocked i5, and the i5 is just a downclocked i7. And the i7 honestly is like just the M3 usually gets paired sometimes with 4 gigs of RAM, and I think that's why it has that. But there are plenty of 8 gig M3 device set like the Pixel Slate. So no, same number of cores, same turbo threading technology, so it should perform comparably to an i5 series. It's like Intel's dirty secret about that naming thing.
Yeah, and I know the C302 was pretty like I had the second cheapest C302. I had the really common one with the Core M3 processor in it, and it was very fast. So looking forward to, hopefully I'll get to try this at some point. But you can buy it on Amazon right now. It's $570. I think it's still under pre-order. It's pre-order. It says it will be released April 5th, which is tomorrow.
It looks like it.
But yeah, I'm glad Asus is at least still trying to make good Chromebooks, and they're not just resorting to the garbage Atom-based Chromebooks they've been making for the past year.
Yeah.
Also probably the biggest upgrade, honestly, from the C302 besides the processor is they finally added a Type A port. There's one normal USB port on this in addition to the 2 Type C.
That's kind of nice, I guess.
Yeah, it's nice. It would have been nice a long time ago before I bought all my dongles and adapters, but yeah, I'll take it. It's still nice to have.
We're all living the dongle life now.
I think this machine makes sense if you're using it more for multimedia, because of the 16:9 aspect ratio. That said, this money, like costing that much, on sale Pixelbook all the way over this thing if you don't care about the screen aspect ratio or the compactness.
And I honestly really liked the design of the C302 more because it had the curved chamfered edges around it. It felt really solid.
Yeah.
But it was still like curved where it's okay. So one example is that I could use it in tablet mode just fine because even though it was heavy, the corners still had like a pretty big radius. So it felt fine in my hand. But this is like the Lenovo Flip I had and sold a couple months ago, where like it has actual like square 90-degree angles, and these are gonna dig in my hands if I try to use this as a tablet. So I don't know. I'll have to see, obviously, but I kind of like the C302 design more, even though it had the biggest bezels on any laptop.
It had chunkster bezels.
It was very large. But yeah, I'm glad Asus is still trying to make Chromebooks, and they're, again, because I was really getting worried there after like they did 4 Pentium Chromebooks with the most garbage screens I've ever seen on a laptop made in the past decade. Speaking of garbage, Motorola is supposedly working on a
this thing just looks that's a tragic aesthetic on this phone.
It's like they just gave up, honestly. It looks really sad. And
this looks like a fan render for somebody who doesn't really know how phones should look.
Actually, speaking of fans, it looks like one of those little like ceiling fan remote controls has been taped to the back of the phone.
It does.
It kind of does.
No. And we don't know what any of these cameras do, I don't think. Oh, they said the main sensor is supposed to be 48 megapixels, but we don't know what the other ones do. Yeah, it doesn't really tell us anything.
I don't think the Motorola really has the technology to do anything interesting with 4 cameras.
Motorola is definitely renowned for not doing very good cameras. That's definitely their thing.
Also, I'm not seeing a fingerprint sensor on this, so it probably has a really garbage in-display sensor.
Oh yeah,
that's another reason to probably avoid this.
Well, I guess maybe this. So this is a render based on CAD files. So like this, the Moto logo on the back, but below those cameras could actually be a sensor.
That's a lot of hope you're holding out there, and I don't think it's a well-placed hope.
I wonder what this phone is, though. Is it like a Motorola
Motorola 2 power or Motorola 4 power?
Maybe it's a
Moto X5, guys.
Moto X5, yeah.
Moto X is coming back. Still doesn't have bamboo backs.
Oh wait, it's the X5 because it's got 5 total cameras. Obviously.
Yep, there we go.
Ooh. Yep,
solved.
Yep,
we're done here.
Can they bring back Moto Maker, please, now?
Moto Maker was the best idea that Motorola had since the Razr, and they squandered it.
They really did, and I probably because it was massively cost ineffective.
I'm sure it was very expensive. Look, building phones in the U.S. pretty expensive.
Well, they assembled them a little bit in the U.S. Like they were mostly done, and then
even that was very expensive.
Yeah, that did not work out very well.
They stamped the logo on in the U.S. That was what they did.
I don't think this will work out very well either. Whatever it is, those bezels on the front just are. I don't try to get too caught up in the bezel game, but that's pretty terribly ugly. Just not good.
It looks worse than the G7 that just came out.
Yeah, really? It looks the same as the G7.
I think the bezel's a little bit bigger at the top.
I know. I really hate what Motorola does on the lower end G7s and what LG does, where they still have a sizable bezel at the top, but it's still notched. Like at that point, can you just make the bezel like a 1 millimeter bigger and put the camera there? It's really ugly. And then Motorola is still plastering their logo on the bottom, like that has any value anymore.
Yeah, it really does not. And speaking of Motorola, I had no good way to segue. The call screening is coming to Motorola G7 and Motorola One phones. Do we actually care about this? Why is it in the spreadsheet?
Well, we care because these are the first phones that are not pixels that are getting call screen.
I mean, it's nice because look, call screen is great. I love call screen. I want it on every phone that I use. So that's good. But if it's only going to be on Motorola and we think probably Nokia phones, then okay, I guess.
Well, I'm just guessing here. I have a feeling it's probably going to be anything that's Android One, which granted is not a huge list.
The G7 is not Android One.
Well, Android One plus whatever phones they spend the effort replacing the phone app with.
Oh, right.
So it could also come to a lot of stock-ish phones, like maybe I'd bet that the OnePlus 7 will have call screen. I feel like
probably.
That would be good.
I feel like OnePlus has been a little reticent to get like you just hop in the bed with Google on a lot of things, which I think is to their detriment, especially in the US.
Yeah, it's like,
give
hey,
me the
please
Google
get-
feed pane.
Yes, the
God
feed.
damn it!
You can only get it on the T-Mobile version. You can't get it on the other one.
I want the feed.
It's no loss. Google Feed's terrible.
You're wrong.
No, it's not.
You're
Shut up.
wrong.
You shut your mouth.
I hear people say that, and I always think that they're wrong because they are.
Do you know who puts food on your plate? It's Google Feed.
The feed is good. You know what?
Wrong.
It's just that your interests are bad, Corbin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They are. Your interests are terrible.
Wow.
And speaking
I'm
of things that
off
are
the Hangouts call,
they're terrible. Google's experimenting with sponsored channels on Android TV home screens. So I think this is probably something that accidentally rolled out. I think it's probably a vendor test. And that TV manufacturers will be the ones you can get pissed off at for doing this, not Google.
And you know what I really love is when I spend a bunch of money on a Sony TV, and then it just starts like showing me ads. That's really great. I enjoy that.
I've never heard of a TV showing anybody ads ever. Doesn't happen.
No, they just very quietly listen to you while you're in your living room.
Was that
very
Sony?
tenderly?
That's polite. I like a polite TV.
Oh, dude, but
Polite
so like it's a line in the launcher, right, for sponsored stuff.
Yeah.
Does it even show anything right now?
It does not.
Unless the shade of gray is a big time ad buyer. No.
Yeah, no. I mean, I understand people feeling like upset, like they spend a lot of money on a TV and like whatever, it's got like sponsored stuff in the launcher, but like, I mean, you're not really gonna like see that a lot.
I want to watch my commercials on broadcast television like a goddamn American. Like, it's like, guys, your TV is basically a giant ad portal anyway. And also, given that like Vizio and whatchamacallit, what's the other one, TCL, are cutting prices so aggressively on their TVs, it's definitely because they want to show you ads and make it up on the back end.
Yeah,
like,
there's margins on TV.
I mean,
the margins on TVs are not good.
I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way because Sony already has a very terrible track record of keeping their TVs up to date and functional, and now they're like, "Oh, what if we put ads right on the home screen?" That's a good idea. We'll do that. Also, your TV's still stuck on Marshmallow because fuck you, we don't care. That's how this would go. I think I singled out Cody there. I forgot he's rocking the Sony TVs.
I mean, I feel like a lot of TVs though, if you go to their whatever, like even the ones that are Android TV, you go to their smart UIs or whatever, and it's basically just a giant screen of ads for all these services you probably don't subscribe to.
Yeah, you know, I'm sorry, but most TVs, it's kind of like buying a computer in, you know, let's say the mid to early 2000s. You would get the computer and that you would have to spend no less than 6 hours like clearing all of the pre-installed crap. And that was just normal. Everyone expected that. Yeah. And you know, that's I have a Sony TV and it really is kind of like that. There's a ton of stuff that's pre-installed. Unfortunately, because of the way it's done, you can't get rid of a lot of the apps, and the ones you can get rid of, you're not even getting rid of them, you're just kind of hiding them. And there's a whole bunch you just cannot do anything about. They're indelibly stuck in that place.
And Android TV, I feel like there could be, if I don't even know, like I could go and look at my Shield TV right now. There could be 5 lines of ads at the bottom of that launcher, and I would never know because how I use it is I turn it on and I find like whichever app I'm going to use, which is up at the top, and that's it. I'm never going to like dig into all this stuff elsewhere in the launcher because let's face it, Android TV, not really like the best at anything.
Oh no, it's a terrible exploring platform. Like they try so hard to surface things, you know, and I think that the only time Google's ever been successful with that with video is YouTube. YouTube is the one thing you can go into for Google and be like, I'm just going to look through what the suggestions are. And actually, they're usually pretty good as long as you don't watch a lot of political conspiracies, in which case they're terrible. But they're pretty good at that on YouTube. And I think that that's really most of where the success is. But the other thing is about Android TV, what you have to realize is this is not a product targeted toward consumers. Android TV's customers are not people using TVs. Android TV's customers are people making TVs and cable boxes. And that is all Google cares about.
I mean, think about how many Android TV boxes you can just go out and buy. There's one. There's the Shield. And then I think maybe like there's like that Xiaomi thing still.
The
Yeah,
Mi box.
That didn't take off at all.
Yeah.
Well, there's a new one with the same hardware as the old one. It's new though. Definitely new.
Yeah.
Well, hey, the same could be said about the Shield.
Yeah.
Ooh.
True. Yeah.
But the Shield is not garbage though.
It's not.
Yeah,
the Shield,
exactly.
box is pretty garbage.
The Shield is totally fine, and honestly, Nvidia's done such a good job, like feature upgrading it, like with soft upgrades. Like they did a really good job with that.
It does a lot of cool stuff. I mean, it's probably like the best Plex server you can have.
Yeah, definitely. And but so for Android TV, getting back to it, you have to realize that Google's whole thing is like Android TV controls like a double-digit percentage of the smart TV market now via cable boxes and stuff around the world. In America, Android TV is not very popular. You have it on Sony TVs, and you have it on the 2 boxes that are available here. That's basically it.
There are a couple of cable providers using it too.
Yeah, DirecTV is going to use it soon on their new box.
Yeah. I mean, that'll be a big deal for Google. I think they'll finally break into the US cable market soon.
AT&T's new box is going to use it too. So I think it's going to catch on to an extent. Obviously, they want to bring down costs, but globally, like in France, I think a bunch of them use it now, and I think in India, some of them use it, and so it's catching on globally. And all Google cares about is like what these cable operators are telling them they want in the box, and what they want is the opportunity to upsell content and do like double dip on revenue, so like serve ads and crap, which is definitely what they want. So that's why that feature is there.
So while all that's true, getting back to the general outrage, I think this all really boils down to is people expect to have ads. People are just concerned that this is just piling on top. This is one more thing. You can tolerate what you already deal with, but you don't want to have to tolerate more. And that's what this is sort of promising. Is just one more step in the wrong direction.
This is my issue with is like I don't in theory have a problem with ads on these sort of platforms, but I think this is the wrong approach where it's just in the middle of your this is the TV equivalent of those auto playing video ads in the middle of articles. That's what this is. I will say I think Roku does ads pretty well because I have the cheapo Roku stick, and the ads on there's a small banner ad on the right of the home screen. When the screensaver comes on, if I don't use it for a couple minutes, it's like scrolling ads, which is fine. Like I'm not using the TV, I don't care. And then like once in a blue moon, a little channel will be added to the bottom of my list. That's fine. I don't care. This seems like this seems kind of annoying compared.
In a weird way, that reminds me of it. Yeah, I never had one of these, but the Kindles that were
yeah, it's exactly like that. Yeah. So. Yay, advertising on your several $1,000 TVs.
So I think that wraps up our topics for this week, unless somebody else, wants to.
I threw something in there. I wasn't expecting to be on.
The watch active.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting to be on.
If you'd like to make your point about that, I guess go for it.
I'll very briefly. So I reviewed Samsung's new smartwatch, which is the Galaxy Watch Active. And it's right here. So I'll super quick hit on. I like the design. It's small. It basically, if an Apple Watch was round, this is what it would look like. It has a very, very small aluminum round design. The screen bezels are kind of large. Like here, wait, let me. There we go. I don't know if you can see it, but that's a pretty chunk bezels, especially compared to my Fossil Sport. You can't really see because I've got a black wallpaper on, but yeah. So this I also like. So this is obviously it runs Tizen, which is Samsung's OS, which is a lot more responsive than Wear OS, I have to say. But it also doesn't have apps, and it doesn't have Google Assistant. but most people probably won't care about that.
How many apps do you have on your Fossil Sport?
I use Google Keep and Google Authenticator and Google Maps, and that's it. I also sometimes use Assistant to like turn on lights and stuff. But yeah, again, most people won't care. But this is mainly designed for fitness, hence the name Active. And it seemed pretty good at that. I don't go bicycling or swimming because it's cold outside right now. So I mostly just ran on the treadmill and did other minor exercises to try it. And the tracking seems fine. Like I noticed like sometimes if I was doing like sit-ups or something, sometimes it would get every single one of my sit-ups and count them right. And then other times I'd be on like number 10 and it would still be on number 4 or something like that. So it's a little off, but again, it's a smartwatch. It's not like one of those chest fitness things that are hyper accurate. So beyond the fitness stuff, this is basically a Galaxy Watch with no rotating bezel. And the no rotating bezel is probably the only major gripe I have with this watch. Not because I feel like it super needs to be on here, but because it feels like Samsung hasn't quite optimized the software for it not to be there. Like there's so actually the best example of this, if I can pull it up, is the app list. So if I open, wow, my webcam is terrible. If I open the app list on, sorry, that's terrible. On the Galaxy Watch, you can kind of scroll through your apps and it'll tell you the name of the app as it goes through. But here you can't really do that very well. You have to tap the name, the icon, and then it'll give you the name, and you tap again to open it. So it's not very intuitive. They could have worked on it a little bit more. But long story short, this is $200, which is cheaper than almost every other Wear OS watch. And it's a lot cheaper than the Apple Watch if you have iOS, and that's an option. So for $200, it actually has a lot going for it. It has heart rate sensor, fitness tracking, pretty good software experience. It's fine. Replaceable bands. It has NFC, GPS. It has most of the things people care about in a smartwatch in a pretty nice design. So overall, I think it's a pretty good watch if you need a fitness smartwatch, and you don't want like a Fitbit Versa, which, as I understand, is still better at the fitness things slightly. This is a good watch.
Yeah, so don't buy a Wear OS watch. I'm just gonna go out on a limb there.
Yeah, don't buy that watch either. But like, definitely don't buy a Wear OS watch. Just don't do it.
I'm still wearing my Fossil Sport. I don't care what you guys say or make fun of me. I like this watch.
I mean, Wear OS is that.
Yeah.
Also, I will say about this watch is that if you're buying this, I highly recommend getting a different band, because this is the band that comes with this watch is the same as the Apple Watch Sports, where you have to like push it in, and this little part digs into your arm, and it's the worst. So I
kind of like those bands. I think you need to not make it so tight.
They drive me crazy. I had it tied in that one picture because I was trying to prove a point, but I don't actually I don't actually cut off the circulation in my arm with my watches, Ryan.
Okay. I believe you.
See,
I don't.
This one's fine. I'm not crazy.
Well, that wraps up the Android smartwatch situation this week, which as usual was pretty sad. So I think that kind of covers our topics, unless there is anything else that somebody wanted to bring up.
No. It feels like you're trying to tell someone to bring up something, and none of us know what you're talking about.
I know. I don't know why I'm telling you to. I'm just kind of. I'm curious.
David's segueing to a topic that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else we should bring up. I mean, we finalized our Google I/O plans. We'll be at Google I/O this year. I guess we could talk about that very briefly. This year at Google I/O, it will be me, it will be Artem, who does exist. I promise he's a real person. I'm going to
I
try to
don't know
capture
about
him on
that.
camera this year and hope he doesn't fire me when I post his picture to Twitter.
Capture on camera like
I'm kidding. I would never do that because he actually would fire me. That's the one thing. Posting a picture of Artem on the internet, fireable offense. It'll be
he
me.
doesn't show up in pictures.
Yeah, it'll be me, Artem, Ryan, not Ryan, Ryan, and Corbin at Google I/O this year. And Selwonk asked, why is Artem not on the podcast? Because he hates it. That's most of the reason. He just does not like it. So that's Artem is not an Android Please podcast listener.
No.
Or contributor. He was on the very first 2 episodes, I think. So if you want to go all the way back in time, he's on there. I think
he also generally refuses to be in front of cameras or recorded in any appreciable way.
Yeah, I believe
actually,
it's because it steals one of his like 8 lives every time he's photographed. So he tries to stay out of the way.
next time I'm on a Skype call with him discussing something development, I'll make a little soundboard of his responses and he can be on the show.
That sounds good. That sounds right. Google I/O this year will be May 7th through 9th, and I believe that makes the last day a Thursday. Although I think what we'll do is I will bring my Yeti microphone and we will record a live podcast probably on, I guess it would be on Tuesday or Wednesday at Google I/O. I think Wednesday's the concert though, so people probably will want to do that. But we'll do a live podcast from our Airbnb in Mountain View, and I will try to get Jason Howell from Twit to come do the podcast with us. He's usually down for that, and anybody else we can drag along. So it will be hopefully a fun podcast special next month.
Yay.
And with that, it's been the Android Please podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. You should subscribe to us on twitch.tv/Android Please. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, once again, you can subscribe to our channel for free and help support us in real material ways. And it doesn't cost you any money at all. And thanks for listening, everybody.
Good night, everyone.